Today's episode of Nerd Soup is brought to you by NordVPN. Right now, you can get a 2-year plan at a huge discount, plus 4 additional months for free when you go to nordvpn.com/nerdsoup. NordVPN is a great option for those looking to secure their internet. With Nord, all of your internet data stays safe behind a wall of next-generation encryption. When logging into public servers, your information remains vulnerable. But when using one of Nord's private servers, all your sensitive information remains secure. And with over 5,400 servers in 59 countries across the globe, NordVPN lets you enjoy instant secure access to hundreds of streaming websites worldwide. You can connect up to 6 devices to your account, which can be accessed by simply clicking a button. You can enjoy privacy on the go when connected to your phone, or you can connect to your desktop and tablet at home. And remember, right now you can get a 2-year plan at a huge discount, plus 4 additional months for free when you go to nordvpn.com/nerdsoup. That's nordvpn.com/nerdsoup, or you can just click our link in the description box below. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. I'm Beau Oliver, joined here today with Marissa, and we are back to review My Hero Academia Season 5, right on time, episode 20. Only got, 5 or 6 more, so...
Yeah, it's all going to be My Villain Academia.
My Villain Academia, that was the title for this episode, and it's a storyline that's famous from the manga. People seem to really were enjoying this story when it was coming out. And getting some insight into the League of Villains, the leader of the League of Villains, Shigaraki, who is bumping up on my list of favorite characters, man. He's really creeping on my top 5 at this point. But overall, I mean, the season has been good. I've really enjoyed it. Season 4 was probably my favorite of all the seasons, so they ended on a high note for me. And I think they've continued that trend with Season 5.
Yeah, I know some people don't like the slow pace at the beginning. I think part of that is watching it weekly, because I went and rewatched the whole joint training arc, like back to back, and it goes by so much faster when you're not like every single Saturday waiting to just see like part of a battle between Class A and Class B.
I think that's a problem I have with all anime.
Yeah, but I also I enjoy training arcs like that. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I also like to see all their improvement, like from everyone. Just based on like some of what I know is going to happen later in the manga. Like, I enjoy seeing them. Also, from what I've heard, this is like that was like the last chill kind of arc we're going to get for a while. So
interesting. Of just the kids kind of being kids.
Yeah, because a lot of the defending that I heard about it was that it's basically kind of the last chill arc, and also the pacing is similar in the manga as for like how much time it takes up. And we got a hint of that when he's all like, I hope next year we can have a great Christmas.
Yeah. Whenever characters talk about doing something in the future that's going to be pleasant and quiet,
yeah,
you know that
it's like the same kind of vibe as when he sees Ida in Season 2 going to the train, and he's like, if only I had done more for him.
Right.
And then it's the Stain arc. It's like, yikes.
We got some big moments in that training arc, especially when it comes to Deku.
Yeah.
This is something that people who haven't read the manga have heard about it from manga readers, the possibility of Deku manifesting the quirks of the previous users of One For All.
And this being sort of like a convergence point, like One For All has managed to reach almost its peak, essentially, or it will reach its peak within Deku. And part of that peak is being able to actually use all the other quirks rather than just stockpiling their strength.
Right. Yeah, we always wondered, was All Might able to access the other quirks? Were any of the previous holders able to use these other powers? We see characters with multiple quirks. It's normally 2, but nothing's ever been said that you can have 3 or 4, evident by All For One. But yeah, Black Whip. It's a new power, kind of similar to, I don't know, Spider-Man type ability. Shoots these whips and he can grab things. It was interesting that the power, not only is the quirk powerful, but it's also been affected by the other quirks, by the other users developing the power of just One For All altogether.
Yeah.
That now Black Whip can't even, as strong as Deku has become over these past...
Yeah, he can't use it at any type of percentage. It's either all or nothing.
Right.
And he can't do that without breaking his bones.
And the way it snaps, to me, you really felt it, that it just disappeared. You know, it's like when you're trying to lift something and your body just collapses, just totally rejects it. So the way that leads into him taking on the internship with Endeavor was really neat, because Endeavor is now the #1 hero. And you made this point just before the mics went on, that Endeavor, as bad as he is as a person, or as bad as he can be at times, he's just a very good hero.
Yeah.
He knows how to do the job.
Incredibly efficient. And they make this point specifically that Endeavor does not care about his image. And, you know, the juxtaposition they posed for that was that All Might is very much all about the image. It's not that All Might wasn't also an incredibly good hero, but there's kind of the implication that, like, maybe his efficiency wasn't the same.
Maybe, right.
Like,
but there was more of an emphasis on maybe...
Endeavor very much, like, he makes it to the second spot, not through popularity or anything, but by the sheer number of cases that he is able to complete and the amount of people he is able to save.
Yeah, even Hawks mentions that. So based on everything else, I should be number one, but you're just so damn good.
Yeah. It's just like, and you see that, like, his instincts, like, he is at a crime scene before, like, someone even really has the chance to scream. It's like the wind turns the wrong direction and he's like, gotta go.
Right. Yeah. His instincts
Which is
are
very
incredible.
much, the Endeavor arc was also so much about his life with his family and the abuse that he inflicted on them, which I do think, like, everyone now has acknowledged what he did to them as abuse, I think. And Endeavor, like, he says it himself, he's not searching for forgiveness. And he doesn't, Todoroki, like Deku says this, Todoroki might be on a journey towards forgiving Endeavor, which might just be something that Todoroki himself needs. But, like, Natsuo doesn't feel that way. And part of that is, like, what happened to Toya, which, as of right now, Toya is just like their older brother who died.
Right.
When
we
he was
don't
young.
know much about him.
We don't know much about him in the anime thus far.
Yeah, we certainly don't. No idea.
No idea who he is.
Yeah, that is a mysterious
very
identity.
tragic.
Rest in peace to that man.
Yeah.
Well, it's similar to how he became the number 2 hero, not worried about his image. In this case, he's not necessarily worried on forgiveness. It's just doing the right thing. I guess in his heart, he believes if I go down this path, this new path, eventually they can grow to forgive me. Maybe that will happen, or maybe not. But it's the right thing to do.
Made peace.
Right.
Again, I'm not too sure exactly, like, what Endeavor does.
He obviously wants his kids to forgive him.
Well, but I feel like
he also feels like he doesn't belong. That it's almost too late.
It's like the impact of what he's done. Like, the fact that their mother still kind of can't really hear his name without flinching. And, like, Shoto every day wears the scar of what their mother did to him as a result of, like, Endeavor's just constant abuse. I feel like that's the only word for it, really. And how they're handling it was so much different, I guess, than I expected. Like, it really is, like, it's very complicated.
Right.
There's a lot of layers to it. Like, a guy who's such a great hero can also be a terrible father, like a terrible husband. Like, that kind of desire for power. I think he points it out with Bakugo, like, he doesn't want Bakugo to be like him.
Right.
Like, he doesn't want that kind of single drive to poison every facet of your life, essentially.
It's like when the League of Villains kidnaps Bakugo, thinking because of his temperament, because of what he's showed in public, he could be easily swayed. But Bakugo has flaws to his character. He doesn't know how to express his emotions. He's not as emotionally intelligent as these other heroes. So that's something he has to work on. And like you said, Endeavor notices that and wants to push him in a better direction.
And Endeavor's basically realized it too late, pretty much.
Right, yeah. You can be better than me, basically.
The only thing that he can do that would be right for his family is to ultimately leave them alone. Like, it's up to them whether they choose to pursue any further relationship, because his presence is just ultimately aggravating. Like, every family dinner they have when they're together is tense, because, like, someplace or another, like,
they're going to be reminded of what he did.
They're going to be reminded of how they grew up. The fact that, like, Natsu didn't even know that Todoroki liked cold soba, which I feel like has been drilled into my head from those end cards. It's like, favorite food, cold soba, not hot.
Yeah, it's just those little details that really stick with them. Or when they learn about them, they become even more frustrated because it's a reminder of not only was he abusive, but it was the little things, just not being a normal dad, not having that normal relationship.
Yeah,
with
they were
them.
like deprived of a family dynamic because he didn't view his children as children. He viewed them as tools to defeat All Might.
And now Shoto has the same view of his father.
And
when he takes
like,
on the internship, he says, "I'm just doing this not to get closer. I just want to learn everything I can from you."
And the
right
thing
way.
of, like, him not even realizing that he can use, like, the fire side of his quirk as, like, a means of, like, propulsion, like, to fly.
Right.
And he's been watching his dad his whole life, has had no choice but to watch his dad his whole life. But, like, his hatred has prevented him from doing things like developing his own quirk, which is like you can see like the negative effects, like understandable in Shoto's case, like he's still a kid, but like you see like the different levels of damage growing up like that does.
The three of them together is something that the fans have always wanted to see. Whenever they get together, it's so much fun. And the fact that they're under Endeavor, it's just a dynamic I didn't expect, but it makes so much sense. And it's
the fact that like, when Bakugo, like he's like, oh, I know what my hero name is now. And he's like, he's like, die Deku before I ever tell you. And Todoroki's like, but we're friends. You can tell me, sort of thing. And he's like, we're not friends. Like,
when
I love
Todoroki says, I invited my friends over for dinner, I told my sister my friends were coming over, and he's like, you go in there right now and tell her we're not friends.
When they're talking about like their deep family trauma, and he's like, you guys got to do this where there aren't guests present. He's like, I can overhear everything you're saying. And he's like, it's ruining all the good food. He gets his Fuyumi to text the recipe to him.
He does do that.
Yeah.
He's really growing on me, man. Even when Deku was recently talking about how he's starting to get Black Whip under control, and Bakugo doesn't want him to get cocky, so he just throws a star at him. And they're like, his cerebral spinal fluid is leaking out of him.
That was so funny. But also the joint training arc, an episode I really enjoyed, Bakugo finally embracing teamwork.
That was my favorite of that arc, out of that mini arc, was them going 4-0. Bakugo realizing, hey, if I have these people supporting me and I'm going full force, nobody can stop us.
Yeah, when he's basically like, and they lead you on to think like he's same old Bakugo. He's gonna do whatever he wants on his own. And
he's like, listen, plan, yo.
And he's like, listen, I'm gonna destroy all of them, and I'm gonna save all you guys, basically. But I also need you guys to save me. And they're like, what? It's like also an act, right? Because like he was letting the other team think that he hadn't changed at all. And I think it's like Monoma who goes on this whole like diatribe about it. He's like, what? Character development from Bakugo?
You can't believe it. He is like the stand-in for the audience at that point.
Yeah, which I loved it.
Right. It's the development of that character has been really good. And that scene, there's so many little scenes that you get of Bakugo, like when he's thinking back to Ben Genist. When he talks about picking your name and
there's only like there's a specific person he wants to tell first, and it's Best Genist.
Best Genist, right? So his development has been great, and like we mentioned with Deku learning about his new quirks, the Todoroki family drama has always been something that I want them to focus on more. So the fact that we've gotten so much of it in season 5 was great for me. Not so great for their family dynamic, but they're healing. They're getting better. What did you think about Hawks this season?
Oh, I've really enjoyed Hawks.
He's been a character that's been hard to pin down, but it looks like he is working for the heroes.
Yeah. Part of it is because my first introduction to Hawks, because I'm not, at the time I was not reading the manga at all, was the movie. What was the movie that we saw?
Not the Heroes Rising movie,
the second movie that came out. That was my first introduction to Hawks. And I like vaguely knew who Hawks was. So to see such like a completely different, especially at the end of last season, like he's very like relaxed. It's so obvious that his relaxation is a front for all the things he's trying to accomplish on the low. Because he ultimately, like when he sets the Nomu on Endeavor last season, or he helps them set the Nomu, and Dabi's like, how come nobody died? Sort of thing. And it's like, well, I have to do my job. Like he's towing this very, very careful line. And I can't help but think it's going to end badly.
I think so. I think it's going to end badly,
like
not only for him,
they're going to figure him out.
Yeah.
I
think a lot of the image that he's cultivated helps him come off as somebody who could be playing both sides. That relaxed nature, maybe it's fooling the League of Villains or the leaders of the Liberation Army, that this is somebody who truly is on our side. Usually what happens to rats is they're snuffed out, and it's usually by the bad guys.
Yeah.
So a lot of the work that he's been doing, it has been in the shadows, in the dark. It's setting up something that promises to be pretty epic, even though after last episode it looks like Shigaraki wants to take care of that army in just one swoop.
I do think the concept of meta liberation armies, again, I really like how the show in general, like over all the seasons, is such a clear critique of how, like, yes, this show is about a superhero society, but it's also like about all the failings of the superhero society. Like, this is not like the perfect world, even though it might initially seem to be that way. Even from the very first episode, like you can see, like those heroes can't go save Bakugo from the slime villain because their quirks aren't right for it, so they kind of have to wait. which is like crazy when you think about it. At the time, we kind of just accepted it as is, like as an introduction to this world. But now it's like they're going further into pointing out like the wrong things with that, and how people with quirks that are different, like we saw in this most recent episode, Shigaraki suddenly manifested a quirk that when he touched people turned them into dust, and he accidentally murdered his entire family. And those are the hands that he wears on his body, the hands of his family members that he killed.
So creepy.
So creepy. And he can't even really remember it. He just has that knowledge. Like he said, he's kind of just like a vessel of fragments. How a society with people that are powered like this is so like really not equipped to deal with things outside of the norm. Even how like quirk discrimination with people who have quirks that manifest more physically.
Right.
Like how All For One was able to build his army. Like he takes people who feel like that guy who's beat up by people who didn't have quirks, and how he wants one, and the guy who has a quirk that physically changes his face, and how he doesn't want that because everyone thinks he's a villain now, like that type of thing. All these things that I feel like a lot of superhero shows don't necessarily get into, like like what does it take to have a superhero society where like heroes are essentially like another police force or like a step above a police force type of thing.
And it feels like this society has put too much emphasis on being a superhero, being the best that you can be, rather than all the other elements that would make up a superhero society. Like we saw, like you mentioned with Shigaraki, what happens when a quirk manifests out of nowhere, and it's an extremely deadly quirk, even with Eri. How do we take care of that? There doesn't seem to be that answer.
And the type of passivity that comes with that, right? Like, that's how All For One gets him. It's like a little homeless Shigaraki. And he goes, everyone just kind of walks you by and says like, oh, the heroes will handle this. Like, the heroes will handle this. Even... Is it the end of season 2 when Shigaraki finds Deku in the mall? And he's like, look at all these people with all their quirks and not one of them is going to do a single thing.
Right.
I find all of that so interesting, and I really like how it like will touch on it every once in a while.
It also feels like there's too much of an emphasis, and this is something I always think of while watching superhero movies, on saving people from accidents or natural disasters, but there's other ways to save people. And when All Might learns who Shigaraki is related to, it makes him feel like shit because that's kind of a no-brainer. This is somebody who is a relative of somebody who took you in and treated you like family, and then you failed to realize that this person even existed. All you had to do was be there. You didn't have to stop a moving car. You didn't have to leap tall buildings in a single bound. You just needed to be there, and he wasn't. And who swoops in? All For One, and he turns him into just this broken, like you said, made up of fragments individual. Those are the minds that are going to be attracted to supervillainy, and that's obviously a problem. It's not just we're bad for being bad, but there's a reason. It's the same reasons why people were drawn to Overhaul as well. Yeah. And he was kind of the warm-up for what's happening now.
I feel like Aizawa, in the episode with them, with their friend Shirakumo, who like they were going to start their hero agency with, but unfortunately he died, and how you can clearly see like Aizawa, he says there's a difference between being self-sacrificing and kind of just like risking your life for no reason type of thing, and how he does not want his students to end up like Shirakumo because he was very impulsive from what he said.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
obviously, it's not like that simple, but it's like he doesn't want his students needlessly risking their lives as the first option. Like they should try something else first, and it's why he expels everyone. And then you see, like, he doesn't really expel them. He expels them once and then re-enrolls them, and it's like a warning, like a motivation for them to get stronger. Like he points out like that flaw to them, which I feel like is a totally understandable concern in a society of superheroes. Like, All Might is that kind of self-sacrificing, I think.
You've always brought this up.
And it's only because of Deku. Like, he has his mentee now, like someone that he's helping. Like, that is his reason for surviving now. But he didn't have that before, and it's the reason, like, for so much of why All Might is the way he is, like, in his regular form.
He was ready to stretch it thin.
No, he was fully prepared to die. Like, he was like, I will die doing this, essentially. And it wasn't until Deku showed up that he was like, I have another reason for living. Sort of that understanding that to be a hero is not just to leap tall buildings. It's like, this is how he's being a hero now. It just looks different than what he was doing before. Right,
yeah. Making sure that the next generation is there to pick up the mantle, and that they can improve on what it means to be a hero. That's why I think it's so important that they are working with Endeavor, close and personal with someone who's great at their job, but who definitely is flawed and who now acknowledges his flaws so he can pass down those solutions to the next generation.
Yeah, and like about Endeavor real quick, I find it interesting how the story is really not letting him off the hook for what he did. I mean, in my opinion, I know there are a lot of differing opinions about how Endeavor is being handled, but I personally don't think the story is letting him off the hook for what he did to his family. So
listen, people in the real world aren't black and white.
It's also, this is like a world of superheroes, so like things are very different.
Yes, but I've always enjoyed stories. I mean, obviously the big one would be Game of Thrones, where they have complex characters, where they don't let them off the hook, but they also show you could do bad things and you can do good things. That doesn't have to make up who you are as a person. Obviously with Endeavor, he brought a lot of it onto himself, but look at a character like Shigaraki. They both could be viewed as villainous in some respects, and it's Shigaraki, it's all the outside forces that really led him down this path. He's a tragic character.
Yeah.
As sympathetic as they come, especially in this story. And the way they've set him up as the opposition to Deku, it's been perfect. So I can't wait to see them go head to head.
It's like we just watched a whole arc about Deku getting stronger. Ultimately, the whole show is about Deku getting stronger. And so far, we've gotten a sneak peek about how Shigaraki is going to get stronger.
What do you think they're doing there? Do you think that the plan is to give him more quirks? So it's just like Deku?
I don't know.
Because his quirk by itself is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I genuinely don't know. I can't tell if they've managed to create in him someone who can like handle more quirks. I don't know. But it is clear he's getting much stronger. We have that peak of like he destroys that whole building at the very beginning of the Endeavor Agency arc. Like you get that peak. And like how he needs to get stronger to earn the respect of like so many of All For One's former subordinates.
Well, the one he's fighting here, Gigantomachia, just wants to destroy him. It's all based on how strong you are.
Yeah, he's like, this guy can never subdue me.
Right.
He's like, so I have to kill him, basically. Which, that's crazy. He fights for 48 hours and 44 minutes, and then he takes a 3-hour nap, and then he's ready to go again.
Yeah, and they're all taking breaks except for Shigaraki. He's the only one that's just kind of avoiding him.
Yeah, because he can't, like, he's the only one that can avoid Gigantomachia. Like, he can't, like, run away because he'll be followed. So he sleeps, I guess, in those hours when Gigantomachia is asleep. And now he's about to sick him on the Metal Liberation Army.
Yeah, it's a genius plan.
Which is wild, right? Because I'm watching this and I'm like, I want Shigaraki to get smaller. It's so, stronger.
I know. Yeah, no, they have you rooting for the villains now.
I'm just like, oh yeah, I want him to defeat the Metal Liberation Army or whatever force that they bring out against him.
He's so much well, it's not even that he's more
he's
the way
widened.
That he speaks.
He's like expanded.
Yes, right. He doesn't get as emotional anymore. I remember you made this point years ago not years ago, but last year during season 4, that he used to view everything as a game, but now he speaks differently. And instead of playing checkers, it's as if he's playing chess.
He still does slip into it every once in a while.
Yeah, he'll get emotional.
Yeah, like when he's doing that whole rant to the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, such arrogance. I can't believe you said this with a straight face.
I was so impressed by how he was able to defeat Overhaul in season 4 without throwing a punch. He just shows up at the end, takes those bullets, which he still has. He still has the quirk-killing bullets that he stole from Overhaul. So what is he planning to do with that? And now he's got this other plan. I've been fighting this giant bodyguard, and now I'm just going to go to where this army is that's threatening me and let them have it out. Let's see who comes out on top. He's like, if they're not there, then it's just going to be one very dead man. But there was a hint at not betrayal, but of becoming worried about the current direction of the League of Villains. You get that a couple of times from Toga, and you got to hear in this episode when she says, "Are you going to destroy everything I love?"
Yeah, because
so you wonder if he is going to go too far and be betrayed by, because the League of Villains, they're kind of delightful to be around.
They even say like that their ideals, I guess, sort of line up with the Metal Liberation Army, because they're all people who want. I mean, obviously for like more nefarious ends, but they're all people who want to be able to exist with their quirks, like in public in a normal life. Which for Toga is like, getting people's blood so she could be all the people she loves, sort of thing. But you can understand for like, what's his name? The lizard guy.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring him up. I don't know his name either.
I'm just gonna say it's like the lizard guy whose name I'm forgetting right now. Skinner?
Yes.
That guy's a lizard. You have to wonder what it's like to exist in society when you look like a lizard. Even like with some of the heroes.
Yeah, I always think of that with Tokoyami.
Yeah,
Just a bird.
Bird. You can imagine how life would be so much more difficult for them, just like existing, and why people would be drawn to the League of Villains or like the Meta Liberation Army in that respect, because society is very much like their society is so catered to people whose quirks are invisible or that can be more easily controlled or aren't so villainous. Even with Shinzo, like everyone's like, oh, he's a villain because he can mind control. And it's like, what makes him want to be a hero versus being a villain? It's like, some of it is drive, but also so much of it is like how they're treated.
Right, yeah, he's treated as if he's supposed to be a villain.
Yeah.
But he's also someone who's in UA. If you're someone who wasn't good enough to make it into UA and you're being told by society, you're a villain, you're a villain, you're a villain.
Yeah.
You not have access to the same resources as a Shinzo. Aizawa can't mentor everyone. Right?
Yeah, even like they say this, like the entrance exam wasn't the reason that Shinzo couldn't get into 1A is because he can't mind control robots.
Yeah.
Like
it's impossible
his quirk
for him to
is
make
not
a difference there.
Meant for that.
Right.
And so then you have to think like, okay, well, this entrance exam is inherently biased, which of course they've gone into this in the show a little bit, but all these different things, it's like then like you're like the new crop of heroes that graduate every year are very specific. Like they all have to, in general, be able to pass this exam and do certain things. And so like a professional hero society that's so like homogenized, I guess.
Right.
Like obviously there are ramifications of that. And I'm interested to see like more, if we get more of the Meta Liberation Army.
Well, what are you
the League of
anticipating?
Villains.
What are you anticipating for these last few episodes?
I think Shigaraki is gonna reach like peak form. He's gonna do something crazy. It's either he'll take over the Meta Liberation Army, I think, or use them as a front. Like I don't think that they're surviving him or Gigantomachia.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a case where Hawks did this entire investigation and he cracked it.
Yeah, and I think Hawks is definitely going to get sucked into it further, and he'll have to deal with more of the League of Villains directly, because it's clear like the Meta Liberation Army is not a Shigaraki deal, at least not what Hawks has been doing, even though some of it overlaps.
Yeah, because he's been trying to get close with the League of Villains and also the Liberation Army.
Yeah.
And so he has to know at this point that they aren't working together. Maybe that's a Hawks plan as well, right? To bring in the League of Villains?
He did hint it to Endeavor. Like, he gave him the book, and he was like, listen, they got this many people. This is when they're planning to attack.
And that's why they're letting the kids work with it. work with real heroes.
They're like, listen, it's going to be real rough soon. We need these kids to know how to fight real life villains.
They're not even,
and they're not even telling them.
No, they're not telling them. They're, but they know what it's going to be, what type of circumstance is coming.
Which the Hero Commission itself, super sus. They give me bad vibes.
Super sus. And it's funny because we see it happening in other animes too. Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen. There's this idea that there's
two animes I have not seen.
Really? Okay, yeah.
I haven't finished Demon Slayer.
Well, there's an emphasis on we're running out of bodies, and that the other side is growing, and we're undermanned. So
like
we
the
have
Jedi.
to allow the kid. Say that again.
Like the Jedi.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So we have to get those stupid little kids to help us win this war. I hope these next 5 or how many episodes it's going to be are more action packed. I think that would really help people that have been frustrated by some of the slower pacing.
Yeah.
I love when shows do this, just two bad guys going at it instead of heroes and villains. They've managed to keep the League of Villains in the shadows, but also still interesting. You still,
sympathetic too. You kind of have to like catch yourself when it's like they've become a focus of the episode.
Yeah, the fact that you're rooting for these.
Yeah, because I'm like, I want them to win against the Liberation Army, and then I'm like, wait, but like no.
Yeah, that's going to be bad for the children that we all enjoy watching.
It's like all my 16-year-old, 15, 16-year-old Class 1A about to go face off an army.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Season 6 is going to be even better.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, no, we'll be back to review possibly the next few episodes. We may do another group review. Hopefully Aaron catches up. He did all that watching just to miss out on this episode 20, My Villain Academia. You won't be back though because you're actually
moving, going to grad school.
I can't believe you're emphasizing college over nerd soup.
Oh.
Damn, we were making some good points in that video. Hey guys, Aaron and Nerd Soup Monkey here. Before we end this video, I want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon supporters. What can I say about you guys that I haven't already said about myself? You are the most important part of the channel and the main reason we keep going strong. Like Beau says, you keep the lights on in the fridge so the fridge is full. or something like that. So, from everyone here at Nerd Soup, I'd like to thank you guys for your continued support. If you're interested in joining the ranks of our Patreon supporters, head over to patreon.com/nerdsoup and check out the rewards we offer to our patrons. We recently dropped some new stickers for you guys to check out, or you could choose a tier that will allow you to select a movie, show, or video game for us to review. We've got a full slate of fan-suggested reviews coming your way, and we're really excited about the chance to review some of those movies and shows. We've also got t-shirts, mugs, behind-the-scenes videos showing how we bring our videos to life. And once again, thank you to all our Patreon pledgers who have been supporting us throughout the years. Without you, we wouldn't be able to convert all your pledges into cryptocurrency, so thank you from my future self for making us rich.